You can see today how messy this desk is. I'm balls deep in a repair on a Neo Geo AES that I actually can't figure out at the minute. It appeared to be a fairly simple problem that I know a lot about. I've done quite a lot of work on Neo Geos, and I like to think I've got some good knowledge. But this one's stumping me a bit. There's a definite solution, and it should be simple, but it just isn't. So let's just take a look together and see if I can hopefully get this one finished. So here is the console in question. We have a Neo Geo AES. There's multiple of these in at the minute. The customer has 2 sent in for repair, and both have turned out to be quite problematic. They've had the sockets replaced, a bunch of work done. But let's just take a look at the issue. If we turn on and just switch on the output, we're getting this missing graphics, and it's got a distinctive, correct shapes, but no colour. So I'm sure many of you will know this. That will be, and you'll all say the same thing, it'll be the palette RAM. Now, it obviously isn't the palette RAM, because I'm using all 4 screens at the minute. I've done a massive reverse engineer of where all traces go to many pins, and I'm still mapping out more. I've got the schematic open that I've annotated a lot more as I go. This is my Neo Geo schematic that's available on the wiki, but with a whole load of notes of where pins and ports go. And if we take a look at the Retro 6 wiki here, you can see, if you don't know, the output on the Neo Geo has some very specific ways of telling what's wrong. So you can see how here there's like clear lines and chunks of squares. So that's like the line sprite processing, whereas palette is more about colours. So if it's things like this where the colours are wrong, you're normally talking the palette RAMs. In our case, we're missing all the colour completely. But I can tell you now it's definitely related to palette RAM. So these are the palettes, and this is the B1 that handles mostly the palettes. They come down here. And then you've got some logic here that's involved as well. The problem is, I've probed all of the palette RAM, all of the logic chips. I've gone up to the G0, I've gone down to the B1, I've gone to the cartridge pins. I can't seem to find a problem. The obvious answer is it would be one of the address or data pins on the palette RAM, but it just isn't. So instead of using the UniBIOS, let me just chuck in a diagnostics BIOS. These don't always pick up the problem, and I'm pretty sure it's going to tell us it's going to be palette RAM, which it isn't. But let's just see what that reports. So with the palette RAM in, it does need a game, because it has to have a game to run the diagnostics. And if we turn that on now, and just switch to the input, I'm guessing that's going to say palette RAM, is it? Yeah, palette RAM unwritable on the lower. So the first step is to figure out which one's lower. You'd expect it to be this one, but all we'll do is pin out to which goes to the lower data pins. Checking with a multimeter. This one's the lower palette RAM at the top. So we're talking about this specific palette RAM isn't writable. As I've mentioned though, continuity is good. So they're both connected. And they both have continuity to the actual G0, which controls that write enable signal. So it can't be the write enable signal. So firstly, let's just use the customer's other Neo Geo that works, or partially works, and let's probe the not write enable pin, which should pulse low to attempt to write. And we'll see when I tap reset, you can see those small pulses of write enables, followed by more, and on screen it passes all tests. Now if we compare that with the problematic one, you can see we're getting absolutely no pulse. So that's something. If we take a look at the schematic, we've got the palette RAM here. We've got the write enable pins tied together as we know. And they go to the G0, which we know on pin 41. So now we know the write enable is controlled by G0. Probably much quicker is let's just hot swap this G0 from the customer's other G0. And with the new known working G0 on, let's just give this a go and see if we get anything different. Palette RAM error, writing, yeah, slightly worse though, but still a problem. We must then be dealing with trace damage on this chip. So now let's dig into what the G0 does. Firstly, if we start with the schematic, we can see we have some control of the line sprite generator. So I don't think these pins are going to be important. We've got card access here, that's not going to be important. We've got CDD, which is the card access data pin, so all that lot isn't really important. Then we have some signals like PAL, read write, ROM. With a bit more digging, if we go to Neo Geo Dev, that's a cool site for quite a lot of pinouts for the Neo Geo. If we scroll up, we also have a schematic diagram, which is really, really handy. So now we know exactly what it's doing. It looks like some fairly simple buffer logic, so buzz transceivers. It says that A and B are the wrong side, but we don't really care about that. And it's a 74 245 logic, which is an octal bus transceiver, and all that means is we have some pins here. So we have, say, B1 and A1, and these want to communicate. Sometimes B wants to be in control, sometimes A does. A transceiver lets it go either from B to A or A to B by toggling a direction pin here, or disabling everything with the enable pin. If we spend a bit of time studying this PAL right enable, pin 41, which goes to the right of these chips, that's what's not toggling, so let's see why. And if we look at the schematic and find pin 41, it's here on the output. We've got an OR gate, so either pin 40 or 39 would need to be firing to enable pin 41 to go high, which we don't want it to be, it needs to sync low. So pin 40 and 39 both need to be low. If we look at that, it will be the PAL and the read-write both need to go low in order to pulse. And that goes to the read-write pin here. Starting with the read-write signal, you can see that's the 68K pin on what looks like pin 7, I believe that is. So let's just start with a working one to prove our assumptions of where pins should go. So pin 52 is tied to pin 41 as well. And there we go. So we've got a connection to the 68K. Let's now check that with this one. So pin 52. So there's no connection at all to the 68K. So I think we've found the issue, or at least one of the issues. The read-write signal from pin 52 here isn't making it to the 68K down here. And instead of just blindly running the jumper from pin 52 all the way back to pin 7, I decided to use the customer's working one to trace where this goes. So pin 52 comes down here through, goes through a via here, comes over to a via here, which I believe is this one, goes to the cartridge connector, and then from the cartridge connector down to this via here by CN5, which we can see is this trace here, going over to this via here. The break was on the cartridge pin here. So I've just run a jumper from here to here, which is that small trace that's broken, and I'll cover that with conformal coating after. But now the real question is, do we get game load, or at least diagnostics ROM? Does it now pass the tests? Yes, I think that's going to say all tests passed. Yes, it does. Swap this back out for Unibios, and fingers crossed, moment of truth. Yes, there we go. Nice. So I will say that's taken many hours on this. I don't know how many hours I've spent on reverse engineering more the pinouts of all this system, which will come in handy. But more so, the customer's going to be more happy because now they have one fully working Neo Geo, and the remaining task is to get their second one working. This is also another one that's tricky. So there's no sound, but it isn't the actual Yamaha sound chip, and it's something to do with the data side. So this one will be another one to diagnose. If you're interested in seeing that, just let me know. And it just shows really, if you put enough time into anything, you can always get where you need to be. This one, the customer's been happy to pay the extra, and it has taken me many hours to do, but it's been worth it.